Every now and then, as an artist, you come across another artist that inspires you, that captivates you, that makes you look at your work. And, there are those times where it makes you look at your work and you understand that you need to get better. And sometimes there's an artist that comes along that validates you in what you were trying to do with your vision. And one of those artists is Bob Thompson. And I feel ashamed that I didn't know Bob Thompson until a short while ago, as far as his impact on visual art. He was born, I believe, in 1933, and he died in 1966, and he didn't live very long. In fact, there are very, very interesting parallels between him and another noted African-American artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. Both of them were very prolific during their times. Both of them were black artists. And both of them, unfortunately, died much too young. Much too young. And I think most of the praises and accolades go to Basquiat because he was the more recent artist. But Thompson was Basquiat before there was a Basquiat. He traveled throughout the world, and he broke many barriers. But that's not why I want to talk about Bob Thompson. I want to talk about Bob Thompson because one of his views is very, very near and dear to me. Bob Thompson believed in humanity as opposed to category. But although he was aware of what the world looked like during his life from a racial perspective, he never lost sight of the humanity of people. And, today we talk about race. Racism is a major hotbed for discussion. But through Bob Thompson's work, it kind of validated how I feel about people. Although he was a black artist, many of his figures were anything but black. They were these heavily colored silhouettes of people that came in shades that people could not come in. And that was very interesting to me, because in that way, and this is me analyzing Bob Thompson's work, in that way, he treated color almost as an incidental. In fact, he took his inspiration from some of the old masters, and he reconstituted them into the current reality that he lived. I think that says something about pushing art and being, having a certain degree of subversion, a subversiveness to your technique. I think Bob Thompson was complete not just because he was proficient as an artist, but he was also proficient in the way that he thought. It's today I look at a lot of art, and it doesn't really speak with its own voice. And I guess to a degree, Bob Thompson didn't speak with his own voice, as we all draw influences. But the voice that he spoke with, although it drew from different genres, and it had a style that, you could compare it to maybe the Fauvist because of the color, because of the composition, and maybe expressionist work as well. His voice was human first. And here's the thing I think about. When you categorize yourself by color, by just all of that, color, gender, then as a black human being, you have certain privileges, certain disadvantages. As a red human being, you have certain privileges, disadvantages. As a white human being, you have certain privileges and disadvantages. But it just occurred to me, looking at Bob's art, when you're just a human being, you have the advantages and hopefully the opportunities of all of those groups. Categorizing people brings limitation. And Bob Thompson didn't live by category. He lived by authenticity and experience. Race, it was just an incidental. If there were people in the world that were suffering and he wanted to depict it, he simply depicted it. And even though you knew in some of those paintings, he was talking about the plight of black people, in some of those works, those people were yellow, blue, green. They were a plethora of colors. And I have to ask why. I know the answer to that question, but I have to put it out there almost declaratively. Why? Because just like our eye color, just like these things that we allow to be superficial and not important, I can only imagine what would happen if we allowed skin color to be superficial and not important. And in that way, I think he was ahead of his time. He experienced different cultures, different people. He had romances with people that were different races, that were not necessarily just, he was just not confined. He was free in a way that I admire. And I think a lot could be said for his appreciation of freedom of expression. And while Bob Thompson is an iconic artist of his time, he should also be looked at as an iconic human being for not recognizing barriers. I'd love to know an artist that inspires you. Share, like, and subscribe, and let others know about this small channel. This is your guy, The Brave Artist. And until the next time, take care.